Okay, we are live now. Oops. And I'm making you host again.
Okay, thanks.
And you can make me the co-host.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
There you are. You are our co-host.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, now we will wait for the learners.
Yeah, let's wait to see. So what did we decide? Are you going to let them in according to those names?
Yes.
Yes.
For the early 5 minutes, I'll be letting them in and also cross-verifying with the registered name.
Right.
And after that, it will be off for them.
Okay.
They have to reach out the support team.
Okay. Also, if you want to communicate with me during the class, please don't put it in the chat because I just don't get to see it. Or put it in the chat and then tell me, just interrupt me and say, Michael, look at the chat. Okay. And
Okay.
then I will look. So thanks.
Sure. Mary Bunker. Okay. Have a great session.
Thanks, that's it. Okay, bye. Hello, Mary. Great. We just let's see the others coming in. And thanks for, again, having your camera on. And we've got Sandy. Hello, Sandy.
Hi there.
Hey, welcome as well. And Ella, welcome.
Hi.
Hey, good. Okay. It's nice that, let's have a look. Sharon, hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you? Okay.
Great.
Great. Okay. And we've got Mary. Okay, Mary V. Sorry, I'm just going through the names quickly because I want to make sure there are no foreign names in the list. So no, that's fine. That's fantastic. I hope it stays this way. So we've got Nancy from Get Set Up with us today as the technical assistant, the TA, and really a lovely person. So she's going to make sure that if we do get any Zoom bombers, that she will take care of them. And you can see she's sent something in the chat now, just introducing herself. And you can feel free to communicate with her via the chat as well. And we will, she will take care of any issues that I'm just looking at the moment. There's just one person who is going to come in. I'm glad all 5 of you are in now because that's the main call from yesterday and previously. But there was one person we didn't know who they were, so we'll see if they come in or not. Okay, so let's. Today is a different type of class, as you well know. What I'm going to do is, in order to get the conversation going, because we need to be in this final class talking to each other about any issues. But what I'm going to do first, in order to almost set the scene, okay, let me just pull it up, okay. What I'm going to do is, as you can see from the agenda, it's really a chatting, but I want to set the scene by just quickly reminding you about the previous 4 classes, okay, and that in itself now will help you just focus on perhaps where there is a weakness in you moving forward, or a little problem that allows you to bring up the question, you see, and also it helps you because you've all got the recordings to be able to make a note and go back to that particular session to cover that aspect again. So let's move forward, and once I've just done a quick summary in a few minutes, then we will just open to some conversation and see where you're at and interact. Okay. So you can recall that the first class was discovering your idea or renewed purpose. Okay, and we worked through 7 stages, and we came away with some ideas about the future, or an idea about the future and why we had that. And that's very powerful. Okay, so if you ever have to go back there and redo it, if you're not feeling that it's really powerful within you. Okay, so the second class was getting from that place, okay, from that idea, from that purpose, and that why, to the next stage. And so if we started verbalizing, we said, talk to the world, remember, and chat for 10 minutes to the world. And what would you chat about? That would be, it's solidifying the whole process and helping your subconscious really get to grips that here is something new that we're going forward with, and you got it clear in your own mind. And then we brought it down to to a short sentence, that would just help focus on just that purpose. Okay. And then also in that class, we looked at different channels of communication, and whether you were going to do it alone or whether you're going to use an influencer. So that was class 2, sort of like that very first step forward. Then class 3 was developing channels of communication. We looked at 8 different platforms, if you recall, and models of business. And I don't mind, you really need to have a total definition of one or the other. It's just that you need to find your way forward and business model to use. And if you're going to use a platform, there are a lot of platforms out there that you can research. Because now in class 3, you can research left, right, and center. This is not subconscious stuff anymore. This is now conscious. And you go out there and look for the right channel that's appropriate. Or you can ask now, and let's throw it around in the class, and we can see what we come up with. We then looked at the style of communication in class 3 as well, and how to start gaining followers and moving forward. We did suggest starting with Instagram, but I want to emphasize that wasn't absolutely essential. That wasn't part of it that you definitely had to do. Okay, and I think from previous week, we did have a problem where people felt they had to do Instagram, not your group, but the previous group. So I want to place less emphasis now on Instagram. It's the media that you want to do, the one that you're familiar with. And, I use a number of different medias just as part of my research for Get Set Up classes and things like that. So it's not essential that you deal with Instagram. So that was the third class. And then the fourth class was what happens if we sort of lose momentum. Okay. And so we looked at all sorts of different ideas of how we could regain that momentum. And we looked at success stories. We said that if 6 months down the line, you're getting into issues, you can look at the how, you can look at your business model, you can look at your platform and say, maybe I should step back and take this forward a different way. Because remember, the one thing that definitely, there comes Henrietta. Okay. So one thing that is definite is that the purpose that you've come up with.
Sorry to be late.
Yeah, hello, Henrietta. Hello.
Sorry to be late. Okay.
Hi.
You were very lucky to be let in. Okay, that's fine. Nice to have you here. Okay. So, okay, we're just summarizing a couple of classes. So just relax and we'll move forward. Okay, so definitely class 4 was what sort of business you've come into that space, and you're using a business model, and it might not be working. Okay, and the business model you can change. Okay, the platform you can change. That's not a problem. But as we move forward, you know, in that class, we looked at a couple of oldies. Okay, makes us all look so young. When you look at somebody who's 99, I'm still up and going. Yes. And so we looked at, creating a little schedule for ourselves that we can look back on, and we looked at ways to motivate ourselves and possibilities. So those things you need to start putting in place, having them there, researching. Don't necessarily do it when you are demotivated. Okay, rather try and sort of have a storeroom of those sort of things that we came across yesterday and spoke about yesterday. So yeah, now we move forward from those previous classes, and I want to just chat about you've got your purposes. You've all shared your purposes, but I'm just going to stop sharing for a minute, and but I feel it as we're talking now and coming back to what our first step was. Feel free to tell us again, a class, just to refresh the other class members, what you're moving forward. But the question I want to ask you now is, how are you moving forward? What was your first tiny step in taking your purpose and idea forward? And I'll leave it to you. I don't necessarily want to pick on anybody. Okay, so whoever feels happy to start the day off. Okay, Sandy, great. Okay.
I started thinking about my purpose when I watched the news. And I see any kind of stories or reports about astronomy.
Yeah.
And I, think about those.
Right. And are you moving forward with that, Sandy, at all, with astronomy? Because clearly astronomy is your purpose. You want to work with astronomy. You want to go forward with astronomy. And have you started planning how you're going to get yourself more knowledgeable on astronomy?
Not really. I've only taken the baby step of paying attention
Okay.
to what it is and being aware of it. That's all.
Okay. Okay. Yes, Mary.
So Sandy, I don't know if you're familiar with, but some museums and astronomical labs, I'm thinking of the South Carolina Science Museum, have astronomers who have been doing their work, have been doing presentations every once a month or when they have full moons, and so perhaps seeing some of those from a variety of, because they're short programs, they're usually 15-20 minutes, and it might give you a sense of what direction you might want to think about as a resource.
That's very good advice. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mary. Are these presentations online?
Yes, they usually are, but I think there's probably other museums that are doing the same thing because of COVID, or I don't know if they're still doing them, but I know that during COVID, when I was still teaching, we were doing an astronomy unit. So I was referencing my kids to some of these museum programs online.
Yeah.
I'll check it out. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thanks for that, Mary. And thanks again for sharing, Sandy. But now you must take that next step tomorrow morning, okay?
I had a question for Michael, though.
Yes.
Since you're in Australia, did you see the lunar eclipse on Wednesday night?
Oh, did we see it? We were timing it and watching it, going out, timing it, going to have a look. And unfortunately, we saw it, sure, but there was a thin layer of cloud, okay? So there was a certain light shining through the cloud. So we never got it on an open sky. And we had to watch it on Australian television eventually the next day to see it. But yes, we were watching. Did you see it, Sandy?
Well, it wasn't visible in my area.
Oh, okay.
But there was a story on the local news about an airplane ride in Australia that took people
That's right.
above the clouds to see the eclipse.
That's right. And they served meals and they served wine, and they showed a picture of one person who fell asleep because of the wine and didn't get to see the moon. So anyway, each to their own. Yeah. Thanks, Sandy. Yeah. All right. So who else would now like to share how they have taken that first step forward and move forward?
Oh, I'll go.
Okay.
I'll go then.
Yeah.
Well, actually, today I started videotaping.
Wow. Hey.
Yeah, it was crude, but it was helpful because it helped me rewrite some things, remember some points I wanted to bring up. So yeah, I start recording, and then I got rid of that one and recorded again. It was, and why I did it because I figured it's about time to do something else, or time to do something besides not doing something.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Just wait for me. That it was time to do something besides not doing something. So that's why I did it today. Plus, him and I also had a talk today as well.
Okay. Okay. Any questions for Ella there? Come on, any hints for Ella? Ideas, thoughts? You're alone, Ella. You're alone. You got to find your own supporters.
Well, there's one thing that I do want to bring up in case I never see people again, is that I want people to know that with mindfulness, it's more than just sitting and navel gazing. It's not that. We sit not to fall asleep, but to fall awake, to be present. And once we're present, then we can take action. So the meditation in the sitting is a calm yourself, calm your mind, so you can see what has to be done, and then you take action. That we don't collude with evil. We take care of that. We just don't sit in. The action is our final step. Right action is our final step, especially these days. Okay. And it's important for me, people to know that. People just need to know that. That's all.
Yeah. You got a thumbs up from Sharon. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Meditation has been like part of my life since I don't know, decades, and how I've changed with that, and changed things to, from one type of aspect to another. So yeah, keep at it, Ella. Keep at it. Eh? Okay. Right. All right. So who's next? Henrietta's got a mic off, so I'm sure she's getting ready.
Good.
Yeah. So where are you, Henrietta? What first step have you taken? How are you moving forward? Because you've done it. I think you started, didn't you, last week in the 5th class, and then started this week in the 1st class. So you've done a complete round. Okay. So yeah. So tell me where you're at.
I still have not moved very far. I'm still trying to get some more information, trying to see how to have more input into more ideas into what I'm going to talk about. And I've tried to start researching on some of the items I want to talk about, but I haven't quite succeeded the way I wanted. But I'm still on it, and I'll see what I can do by, say, the end of the week, and see whether I can improve on what I have in mind.
Okay, so from the first class, class 1, what sort of ideas are you playing with in your mind? What sort of thoughts are occurring to you from what your purpose might be in life?
Was it my purpose in life? Actually, I was trying to talk about gratitude and sort of making the youths to be aware of it and more of it, because many of our youth these days don't seem to know actually what gratitude is, and they don't actually know, and they don't appreciate it. So I felt I should develop on that and see whether I can make any impact.
Yeah, and that's great. Now, have you thought how you're going to now go forward with helping the youth with those sort of issues? Because you mentioned a few previously as well. So are you still unsure about your first step forward in addressing this issue with the youth?
Actually, talking to Ella this afternoon, I sort of have an idea to meet talk to some people who will give me more information, and with that I can develop my story or my talk. Okay. So I'm waiting for her to send me some information about 1 or 2 people whom I can make contact with, and then from there if I can get more information of what I intend doing, then I can start developing it. Okay. The story, okay.
Yeah. I sent out the 2 names today, like around 8 o'clock. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry,
I sent out. Yeah, Henrietta and I had a talk today, and I sent out I think 2 names today, late today, but today.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. I'm so pleased the 2 of you are communicating. Okay, it's really great. So Henrietta, yeah, keep on at it, because it's a really problem in the world today, and you want to address that issue. And I was researching last night, Henrietta, about the lost continent of Lemuria and what sort of people those Lemurians were. Okay, and they would be the people that you would absolutely love, because they personified everything that you've mentioned. And and I thought of you when I was
thank you.
Yeah, no, they really are great. In fact, I was so impressed that I thought, well, I must do a class about the lost continents of the planet, and talk about the Lemurians. And You know, for me, one thing leads to another, leads to another.
I
One
know.
Yes, yeah.
But where are these people, the Romanians?
Well, that's really interesting, and I could talk for the whole class about it. But the continent is believed to have been somewhere between Australia and North America, okay, in the Pacific, and it went down. But they were very, very advanced people, so they knew it was going to go down, okay. And they had given birth to Atlantis as well. And Atlantis were the opposite to the Lemurians, okay? So we have that situation of the Atlanteans were like society today, you know, consumeristic, greedy, you know, without gratitude and things like that. And then, but the Lemurians then knew they were going down. And the story goes that some went to Mount Shasta in North America, California, I think it is. And they built a city under Mount Shasta in, and you can Google Mount Shasta and Lemurians, okay? It's quite fun. And the other bunch went to Mount Kailash between China and India and in the Himalayas. And they went down and built, and then they connected with each other in the middle of the earth and so on. And the rest went to other planets because they had so don't get me on that. I'm wasting your time. I'd like to tell stories too, Sharon.
Please, could you put the names of those two is it two
The
tribes
classes.
or countries? Yes, in the chat for so that I can copy
Okay,
it.
the classes haven't been launched yet, or at the actual classes, but so you know, I've given
It's
them
not the class. It's not class now. The names of the
the names
yeah.
of yeah. I'll tell you what, Nancy, if you just put in Lemurians, the continent of Mer or Lemuria, and the two mountains. One is Mount Galesh, and the other one is Mount Shasta. Okay, if you just put that in the chat there for Henrietta, I'd appreciate
Thank you.
it. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
Who's coming next? Who's going to tell us where they are at?
Michael, Mount Kailash and
Mount Shasta. Shasta, I think Shasta, Shata, yeah, Shata, yeah, in California.
Okay.
I think it goes all the way up the range. I think also goes all the way up. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Say again. Oh, okay, no, fine. All right. So yeah, and watch out for a class, all right, because I really want to launch something about that. It'll probably be something like mysteries under the ocean or something like that.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
okay. All right. So who's going to go next and tell us where they are, what their first steps have been, and they're moving forward? Mary. Okay.
Okay. So my style for working is to focus on writing about my process in order to get into a process. So that's just something I know about myself. So one of the things I started to do was I've already started working on the myth, because remember, mine is to work on a children's book based on some of the obscure Arthurian and Celtic mythologies and on sections. And I had already chosen my myth and started putting together my thoughts around this particular character from the Grail stories. And so I spend a lot of time working with mythology, working with the Joseph Campbell's work on the hero's journey, working that way to kind of get at a sense of calling and call and purpose and things like that. So one of the books that I absolutely love and have used many, many times before, and I use different parts of it whenever I'm doing some different piece. I don't always agree with everything they say, but I kind of pick and choose exercises. Is Zen in the Art of Making a Living by Lawrence Bolt, which actually uses the hero's journey.
Okay.
And I've been using this book since the first edition came out in like 2000. And whenever I'm trying to create a new project, I go back to at least some of the exercises and some of the reflections. So I've been doing that, and thinking about how to build my content into SMART goals, because for me, I'm not ready to focus on a business plan or a communication model as much as I really want to focus on the steps to get to content. And when I do SMART goals, not only do I do the SMART goals we talked about, but I also had read an article, I don't remember if I mentioned this yesterday, I read an article about that doesn't fit into the acronym, adding an N for noble. So what's the nobility of the goal? How does the goal actually serve the larger purpose of the human community, the natural world, the invisible world? So that for me is also part of the hero's journey. So I've been sort of like playing with my SMART goals around my content, not my business plan. Okay. And thinking about videotaping my story on Loom. And yes, I know you talked about the mission statement, perhaps recording that, but I want to focus right now on the content and playing with the story itself, because a lot of my background is as a storyteller. And if I can do it as an oral story, then I can figure out how to then flip it into a children's book. Putting together a PowerPoint to identify my steps, and then creating my hero's journey map. I typically, for decades, I had the tendency to use the hero's journey to just map out using some of the general categories, not all of the like 35 stages of Campbell's monomyth, but I usually have broken it down to like 10 or 15 stages. And I just go through and work out my map, and that helps me process my steps. So I can get to action steps by going through this. Maybe it's a more indirect or more mythological process, but this is how I've processed any new project or any new calling or any new idea for a long time. So I've been sort of like playing with plunking in the pieces to a strategy that I've used in the past.
Okay, so you're using your skills from the past, which is great. Okay, they're inherent, they're inside you, that they come from what you were born with. It sounds like it, does it not?
Yeah, and they draw from the interior world to exterior action. And right. I know that Ella was talking about mindfulness as being, it's not just sitting and meditating, it's actually using that interior world to get to action steps. And these are the same steps I teach my students. These are the same practices that we do a lot. Maybe not because I have younger kids, so it's not quite as detailed, but this is how I do process. So okay. I've kind of started my process with my process.
Right. And clearly you are enthusiastic and excited about it.
Yeah. I love the Arthurian legends. My grandmother loved the Arthurian legends and taught them back in Indonesia at the turn of the century. So I come by this love of the Arthurian legends naturally.
Okay. Have you researched the Lemurians?
Oh yes, I've spent decades and decades working as a storyteller and as a teacher. I spent a lot of time with the Arthurian legends and the Celtic mythology. Yeah. Met some of the main scholars in the field. Traveled did a kind of a pilgrimage with my probably 20 years ago to many of the Arthurian sites so that I could actually envision these places that have been so alive in my imagination for so long.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. Okay. This is so exciting. I wish I could keep in contact with you in the future and see the things that you're writing. It's really great. And had you heard of Mount Kalesh and Mount?
Well, I was going to ask you, I know the myths around Atlantis. I mean, there's several of them, because I also know a lot of the Greek and Roman mythology and mythologies from a lot of places around the world. So I'm very familiar with the myths related to Atlantis. I'm not as familiar around the myths that would be connected to what you were speaking about.
Okay. I would urge you to just have a look at it, just because of who you are. Okay. The Atlantis, there's a lot of there are a lot of cities under the sea. Okay, there are a lot, okay? And they can't identify, which one is probably Atlantis. Okay, but at the moment. The NASA has an aeroplane that scans over Antarctic regularly. Okay, now what are they looking for? Okay, and there's some really people that I don't know. Anyway, it's very exciting to look at all that, and yeah, I'm looking forward to doing a class on that as well. So. I've started really, in fact, I started with the Bermuda Triangle. Okay. And I sort of I'm going to ask the people in the class, true or false, you see, because now with the latest technology, they've now discovered 2 crystals under the sea that are bigger than the pyramids in the Bermuda Triangle. Okay, so all the disappearances and things that happen with the Bermuda Triangle, also a mystery. I love those stories. Okay. Anyway, you must just say, shut up, Michael, and let's get on with it. Okay. Okay, so who's going to be next? Thanks very much, Mary, for sharing. Thanks. Yeah, it was great. Okay. Sharon, there's only you left.
Well, I really enjoyed listening to everybody. It's such great stories and falling awake. I love that, and the myths and the gratitude and the astronomy. I've been a journalist for many years, since like the early 80s, and I've written for TV and I've written for different newspapers and magazines, and I've always published for other people, but not for myself. And on my desk drawers are filled with half done manuscripts. And there were 2 problems. Either I get to be a perfectionist and I keep rewriting the same thing over and over, or I lose interest. So I actually completed a children's story a little while ago, and I did it in bite-sized steps. I set myself small goals, and there's a book that I use as my guide. It's called The Artist's Way by Julie Cameron. And she says that you have to give yourself permission, I'm going to use a bad word, to write shitty first drafts. And that was a big thing for me. I didn't have to be perfect. I just had to get it done. So that process enabled me to finish my first draft. I'm still tinkering with it, but I'm not going to be caught by perfectionism, which is actually, it's a sabotage. And then on the other side, I am working on a business plan only because I want to self-publish, and there's a lot of nuts and bolts and websites and Instagram, but my heart is really the creative process. But the thing that I've fallen behind on for my own endeavors is bringing it to fruition. So if I can nail down and give myself a little schedule for the practical steps, that helps me bring my creative side front and center.
Okay. So you've been given thoughts, Sharon, to the self-publishing. There are different channels and different business models with the self-publishing, or are you still learning about self-publishing?
I picked one that I really liked. I did some research on different writers markets and online, and there's one called Ingram Sparks, and they get into Barnes and Noble, all the libraries, and they act like a big publisher. I need that one. And then there's the and Amazon has its own little self-publishing unit, but you have to have an exclusive contract with Amazon. And I want something to be in the smaller bookstores. So it's a book for children, so I can read, have like a little reading. I'm not quite the storyteller as Mary, but I think that, it would be great to have something where I can have a broad reach.
Right. I agree with that. When I did my book on self-publishing, okay, it got out to everybody, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, and everybody, because of the route that I took. I used Author House as Author House, okay. As my help in the self-publishing, and they were really good with training and coming up with suggestions. They allocate somebody to you as a guide, I guess you call them, or a mentor, and then they have a lot of training, as I said. So have a look at them, see what. Yeah. Okay. So wish you luck. I wish you luck.
Thank you. I appreciate the support.
It's a pleasure. And I told you I would go and have a look, and I totally forgot. The story I wrote in a magazine, a kiddie story about the ants. I can remember I told you about that, and the UFOs and the ants, but I just haven't been to look for it. It's somewhere. Remember, I've changed continents since I wrote that, so it's stuck away somewhere in a box. Okay, so thanks for that. As everybody has now shared, just remind me, because I'm just a man and I tend to forget. Okay, everybody has shared. I want to just move forward. So not many of you now have chosen your social media app yet. And so I think what's on the screen now is not particularly relevant, but those of you that are testing the waters, and I think there's probably 2 of you that are testing the waters here, what results are you getting with just starting to post? Have any of you started to post? Maybe that's the first question. No, I know you wouldn't have sent in. You okay?
I have my own Instagram account, but the one that I created for my book, I'm more eavesdropping now.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's fine.
I have a question for Sharon. Sharon, what are you? I know that he mentioned, I don't have an Instagram account, but I know he mentioned in one of the earlier classes about using Instagram to sort of follow other people who are doing what you're wanting to do. And you clearly have a better sense of what that social media world is for children's literature. And are there any folks you think I should follow or look into to eavesdrop, as you put it, since I would not even know where to begin to find something like that?
Well, I was really eavesdropping on I'm doing a book on hair, right, and I was eavesdropping on some of the hair groups, but I found that there's supposed to be Facebook has a group for children's writers.
Okay.
And I was going to join that, and I'm still investigating. But if you send me a direct message with your email, I'll write back with whatever I find, and we could share resources.
Okay, that sounds great.
And everybody, I'd like everybody's email address. I've fallen in love with the whole group.
Okay, thank you.
There we are. All right, so send an email under the chat page directly to Sharon. You'll see, rather than to everyone, you can a little drop down arrow, and then it'll go directly to Sharon, and none of us will see the email. So let's do that right now, and I'm going to send you mine too, Sharon. Okay, there we are. And,
Sharon,
Sorry?
had you suggested that we all share emails?
No, only with the person you want. So if you,
Okay,
like Sharon has asked for our emails, so I've just sent her mine privately. If anybody else wants it, that's fine. But,
okay.
but it keeps it private, okay? And it keeps it away from any spammers if you just do it privately. We don't have any spammers in the class today. That's just fantastic, okay? And probably largely due to Nancy. So thank you, Nancy. All right, so yeah, that would be great. Sharon, you can pick those up and deal with the emails and communicate as you wish. Okay, I get set up. I'm not allowed to collect all your emails. Okay, so it's not appropriate for me to do that, but certainly Sharon can, and I think we can all in this class add value to each other. Okay. As I go forward, exploring the mysteries under the sea, okay, we'll probably meet again in those. So, all right. So at the moment, other than eavesdropping, perhaps we're not getting to a point where we are actually using the social media at the moment. Okay, yeah. The other question which interests me, and I want to know from you what's on the screen now. What challenges? I mean, you've shared things with us, but if you can sort of isolate for the sake of the class, what is the main challenge you have in going forward with your purpose? What is the thing that really is either holding you back or is just a challenge? Anybody want to share?
I think my challenge is that I felt like, and I think that's part of the reason I went the direction I went, is there seems to be, at least in my own process, steps missing because I don't feel like I can go into some sort of social media platform model, until I actually have content. And so I feel like I have to really focus on the content and the steps to get the content nailed down in my head, which is part of the calling, the purpose, And once I get that, then I can get to the next step. But for me, that trying to figure out the steps that were the in-between steps, betwixt the purpose and the digital platform or communication or business model. And so that's where I got stuck.
Yeah, content is so important. I understand that. Yeah, and you need to get that content behind you. You need to have that access to that content. So I can understand that. I at random, let's say I'm researching one particular aspect of a class, and then you remember the aha moments, and just by accident something else crops up, is to keep a note of that. Okay, put it in a file somewhere, or put it on a link to it, or something to that effect, or put it onto Pinterest to save it. Okay, I use a lot of my saving to Pinterest just for the future, and I think that might be an idea for the future, or that might come in something for the future, and that's building content for something else. So you're getting things around your conscious purpose, okay? Even though it might be quite abstract, putting up building content for Mary particularly, and Sharon too, pictures. And Sandy, if you're going to go lecturing, you don't sure quite how you're going to go forward yet. Gathering contact on astronomy. And from different angles. I mean, there's so many different angles that you might not think of this angle, but you don't want to think of it. So you quickly move off, but you store it. You store it. You've got it somewhere where you can access it.
So my question to you, this is Mary, my question to you would be, if you're using Pinterest, is there a method of using Pinterest just as a personal archive bulletin board rather than as a social media?
Yes, yes, you can. You've got the option with everything that you pin onto Pinterest to keep it secret. Okay. So that's all you do when you pin something, is just keep it secret. And then that's only you. And so that works well. But also another good thing with Pinterest is that you can create a board that you can ask people to collaborate with you on Pinterest. So, let's call it a board on astronomy, okay? And you know a few people who, who are into astronomy. Ask them to collaborate with you. So they will add things to that board. You will add, and everybody who collaborates will add things. And so the board will grow about astronomy, okay? As an example, okay? So it's handy. So did that answer your question, Mary? Yeah. Okay. All right. Anybody else having challenges working from home, working on your particular project that you're now doing? And I think project is a nice word, moving away from purpose. We've got the purpose. The purpose has now become a project. And so now you're moving forward with your project. Okay. It might be a place to stop the class. But it's up to you. Sharon, did you get your email addresses? And okay.
With gratitude, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. I think Sharon's going to lead us. Okay. All right. So it might be a good place to actually end the 5-day session that we've had, and today's class as well. We've all shared and communicated. We're all having issues, and it's great to share those and sharing with one another. So before I sort of close off, are there any sort of closing comments after the 5 days? And do you think it was worthwhile getting through the 5 days, or would you have got there anyway without the classes? Random.
I'm a huge basketball fan, and I miss basketball games to be a part of this group because it's so great.
Thank you. Okay.
I think it's good. It's a good idea, but still have to understand it more.
Right. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Well, what I want to say is I am so appreciative of everyone here, and I'm very grateful for the class. Last week, I was doing one on Carl Jung and a lot of workshops on call and purpose from a Jungian perspective. So that's going to be a lot more of the spiritual, archetypal, psychological piece. And so this fit in really nicely because this one was much more pragmatic and practical. So it was nice to see them weave together.
Good. Okay. Yeah, thanks for that comment.
I wouldn't have started recording today if I hadn't been in this class. It kind of spurred me on to do that.
Okay, great. Okay.
It was helpful.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, that's great. Super. Okay. All right. If there are no other comments, and thank you to you too. I'm going to look at how to do it. There we are. How's that?
Is that not a talking sign?
All right. Well, thank you very much. And please, I know that Get Set Up are going to sort of work through these particular classes and maybe move them around, maybe disentangle them from 5. But whatever happens in the future, find one that is appropriate and come in and tell me how you're doing. Okay. Really would enjoy that. So have a good evening. Have a good week. Yes, Sandy. Okay.
Thank you.
Could I get your email address?
Sure, Sandy. I will send it to you. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
It'll be the best way for me to stay in touch.
That would be great. Okay, there, I've sent it to you.
Thank you.
Okay, you can just copy and paste it. And yeah, so good luck with all of you. And, you know, may the coming weeks really embellish what you're doing. And may you help the world become a better place with each thing that you do. Okay. You know, we've got that privilege as seniors to do that now. Okay. And, you know, even if it's one person, it doesn't matter. We can make this world a place of love and kindness and gratitude and, you know, feeling of love. We can do that. We can do that. Okay. And we have the privilege to be old enough and with the wisdom to do it. So good luck with
Thank
all
you.
of you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Bye,
Bye
everyone.
all.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Stay well.
Thank you, Michael.
Yes.
Bye.
Oh, Nancy,
Bye-bye.
sorry, Nancy, you want to say something? Nancy?
No, I was saying have a nice day.
Sorry, say that again. I missed it.
I was saying have a nice day.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Nancy.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.